It could be on-premise, it could be your private hybrid public clouds. And the end-to-end visibility also spans to the modern infrastructures like SD-WAN networks, which are backed by our own NSX or other physical devices, right, such as routers, firewalls, switches, load balancers, and so on. And the dashboards which Network Insights provide, they actually provide us with application network flow analytics, end-to-end path visibility, troubleshooting packet drops, retransmit counts, hotspot detection, which comes handy in troubleshooting performance issues on your network, right? Because it's been always a gray area between the virtual infrastructure and the physical infrastructure to identify network performance issues and packet drop issues traditionally, right? And what is very important here is the application-centric monitoring, which we do with Network Insight, which actually provides guidance to segmenting your workloads in a more secure and optimized way. Example, when you have to do microsegmentation planning in NSX deployments, VRNI actually links the virtual infrastructure or the application constructs to the infrastructure constructs, and it helps in use cases like data center migration, or even when customers want to migrate to public clouds, right? So it also captures metrics from physical networking devices, like I mentioned before, metrics like round trip time, RTT, and latency metrics. And when it comes to this is one of the key differentiators where we offer features like outliers, outlier detection, thresholds, top talkers, topologies, especially with features like network maps, which we will see in detail subsequently. And as I mentioned before, Network Insight, the flexibility which VMware provides is you have the option to deploy it both as an on-prem as well as a subscription-based or a SaaS-based tool also. Now, just to show you a quick glimpse of the screenshot of how a Network Insight UI looks like for those of you who are new, this is a page where we list down, let's say, all the applications or application groups that are created, right? And then it actually shows us the network topology. And then you go into the details, right? With features like network map, where it actually shows us the network backbone, the various locations or the data centers, how the traffic traverses all the way to the public cloud through the internet, right? So various models, and also the events which are related to your infrastructure. Any event which is pertaining to events and alerts related to what's going on in your network and security infrastructure. Right? And how is this possible, right? So this is only possible because of the rich, broad partner ecosystem, integration ecosystem, what Network Insight has, whether it could be with the likes of the network hardware vendors, the brands, what you see there, it could be routers, switches, firewalls, or even load balancers, and the modern application models like containers, Kubernetes, and our own solutions, or public cloud solutions, right? Like the brands, what you see there, and our own solutions, which integrates very closely, like vSphere, NSX, VeloCloud, SD-WAN, the container deployment and management platform like VMware Tanzu, and the cloud management portfolio or solution like vRealize operations, right? Now, we'll straight away get into what's new with 6.0 with this. So 6.0 at a very high level, there were the key offerings, the key features which came in were around these four. So one is the assurance and verification, which actually comes from VeriFlow. So VeriFlow was one of the technologies which VMware acquired sometime last year. And it came with the features around network modeling, right? So we'll see what those are and what are the use cases of that. Enhancements to the dashboards which VMware SD-WAN provides, SD-WAN dashboards where there have been a lot of enhancements came in over there, app awareness on integration with tools like vRealize operations, and on the hybrid cloud front where VMC on AWS came out with a lot of new metrics over there as well, right? So to begin with the network assurance and verification use cases, now, as I said, this came from VeriFlow as a technology, right? So now those features have completely been integrated into Network Insight. And what does it help you do is to build your own mathematical model of your network, right? So now you will have your own visualization of your network, your enterprise-wide network, which could be within the data center, across various physical devices, across various types of workloads. So it helps you to build a certain model with the security paradigms and all those components defined over there. and thereby helps us achieve three key use cases, right? So one is the network wide visualization, which is like helping you build a complete topology and a network topology map of your network infrastructure. We'll see that in the demo. And also helping you get the path visibility, understanding the heat maps, like having heat maps where you can identify the hotspots, proactive visibility into components like or features like reachability, segmentation in your network, well in advance to an issue really happening, loop detection, providing us with recommendations around networking and security, and finally intent verification. So intent is a very key feature which is going to bring network insight on parity with a lot of those powerful tools or competitive tools, which we have had in the market. So we'll see what intent verification is. Now, intent verification can be like around business intents or security intents, or can be around uh, reachability intent or any health intents. So there are various alerts which can be generated from there, and it also covers the industry standard best practices and compliance like the STIGS. Now, just to show you a glimpse of what a topology map looks like, because I didn't want to have a lot of text on the slides, just show you the screenshots, so that we can go over that. This is how a typical network topology map looks like. And what you see here is a complete map or a group or different groups within the map, which comprise of the whole network ecosystem, right? And all these blocks that you see, they're all the groups. Now, these groups are, can be auto-generated, or they can be manually created as well, based on your location or based on your application groups, based on a certain set of network devices which you want to, bring together. And then it actually gives us a whole bunch of events, right? Now, which will be listed. It can actually go into specific entities. Now, when I say entities within these groups, you can see when you zoom in, these are all those networking devices or network constructs, right? So and the legend, what you see below, it shows us what is an edge node, what is a transport node, a physical firewall, or it could be an NSXT manager or physical router. So a whole lot of things in one single pane of view. That is what assurance and verification topology map provides. And then we have the feature which is called as the paths, where you can specify a source and a destination, and it actually takes you through the entire path of which are the different firewall rules or security parameters or devices it traverses through to get to its designation, right? So this is about the topology view and the and the maps which we have. So the other thing which got newly introduced, because the network map feature was there already, but then as in how more and more capabilities from Veriflow got integrated into VRNI, what got introduced newly in 6.0 is the NSXT distributed firewall support, right? So distributed firewall rules will be considered at the host switch ports, which is connected to the VNix. And if you see at the screenshot number 1 on the top, like, if a blocking distributed firewall rule is applicable at a destination VM incoming direction, for example, the path will be blocked at the IP ACL out rule table of host switch port connected. So as you can see listed here, and vice versa, right? So if it's a outgoing traffic, it will be listed as in, and on the switch port, the host switch port. And if it's an outgoing traffic, if it's an incoming traffic, it will be listed as out on the host switch port. So this is something which newly got introduced as a support for the NSXT distributed firewall. And edge firewall rules will be considered at the edge router uplink ports, right? So these are in regards to the firewall support. Now, likewise, let's say if there are multiple taps of NSXT, either on the host transport node or on the edge transport node, there'll be separate network map paths which will be shown for each of these steps associated with the uplinks. And this is in scenarios where we be using the default teaming load balancing policy. Right? So if they have multiple depths in either of these type of the nodes, right? So this is two NSXT specific features which got supported in 6.0, right? Coming to the intent. So intent, like I mentioned, is again one of the key features of network assurance and verification. So intent is where we can actually define a preferred state of your network, right? Now, there are different types of intent. Either there is system defined or there is user defined. So system defined would mean the out of the box intents which are available in VRNI, and you can actually define your own intent. Now, this intent will fall into these three categories. It could be around compliance, it could be around device health. Now, device health would mean MTU size mismatch, right? No, or trunk policy or trunk port mismatch between two different switches, right? Or it could be around like network health, which could be there is no communication, lack of communication. So it could be reachability, or it could be segmentation. There could be a segmentation intent which you would define, where you say that you have a three-tier application which has a web, an app, and a DB. And in no instance do you want the web to directly talk to the DB, but it's only should be the app should be talking to the DB. If you define an intent like that, you will get those alerts coming in. So which helps us in proactive troubleshooting, and then more and optimizing your security for your infrastructure more effectively. We'll go through it in the demo as well. Now, some of the improvements which they brought in intent was segmentation and reachability. Intent allow router interface as a location to be specified in addition to the VMSAN inferred IP endpoints. Evaluation, one is intents, uh, whatever intents you define newly or which you edit, or the existing intents what were edited, will only be applicable to the future snapshot state of your network, right? It never used to support or it never used to worry about the existing current state. But in 6.0 onwards, the existing current snapshot state will also be evaluated, right? And then there are some UI enhancements where the user-defined intent will provide more details. So some of the UI enhancements, which came with the intents, right? So that was on the network assurance and verification. Like I said, I really didn't want to spend a lot of time on this the slides. We will go to the demo as much as possible. But then it's also important that we cover the features, the new features, the key features as much as possible. So coming to the SD-WAN by VeloCloud or NSX SD-WAN enhancements, which came in Network Insight, there are predominantly three of them, right? So one is the path tunnel visibility. So SD-WAN dashboard was there, but then what was introduced is a new edge dashboard. So edge is one of the components of the of SD-WAN, and edge dashboard was something new which was introduced, which provided edge to edge, edge to hub, edge to branch connectivity metrics, and also the tunnel metrics. The tunnel is something which is the link which actually connects between these edges to edge to edge, or edge to hub, or edge to gateway. And we can get the metrics of those tunnel as well. And then the metrics what we get is what we call as the QoE, or rather it stands for quality of experience, which is mainly for audio traffic or video traffic or transactional traffic. And it gives you those metrics, whether it is on the higher side, better side, or is it on the bad side, things like that. There was a new ISP dashboard which was introduced with this, which mainly came in as an ask because of the work from home use cases. Because of if there are ISPs which is associated with the SD-WAN infrastructure, we can get the metrics for each of these ISPs. So we can see that as well. And the flow round trip time support was something which was available only with NSXT within VRNI. Now it is available with the SD-WAN dashboard, within the SD-WAN dashboard also. Now coming to the HCX extension, network extension monitoring with Network Insight. So HCX, as you're aware, stands for hybrid cloud extension, which is where the use case is to extend your L2 network from on-premise to another data center, or it could be to the hybrid cloud or public cloud, mainly for use cases where you want to seamlessly migrate virtual machines from on-prem to another data center or to a public cloud without re-IPing, or without changing the IP address, or without having any downtime, right? So this was one of the main use cases of HCX. Now, why is HCX monitoring important with Network Insight? Is because in HCX implementation scenarios, there could be one or multiple L2 extensions of your existing network, right? And it's very important for us to know uh, what is the usage threshold, right, of the available bandwidth. Now, is the current network or the current infrastructure, the HCX infrastructure, being used optimally, or are we going beyond a certain threshold? Who's going to provide that metrics? So Network Insight can provide that information. So flow monitoring and analytics for network traffic over HCX L2 extensions. If we need to make a decision that, okay, we are crossing the threshold, so we need to scale the L2 extensions horizontally, how can we make that decision? It can be based on the metrics provided by Network Insight. And also, there are use cases where, let's say, network cutover, right? So network cutover means that at what point are we sure that there is no more network communication happening within a data center or within the site, so that we are now completely confident to cut over, to do that final cutover of network into your public cloud or to the other data center. So Network Insight helps you get that visibility of any network traffic which is still going on, and to ensure that there is no more communication that is happening. And as you all know, those of you who have worked with Network Insight, we have a capability called application groups. So which we saw in the UI in the beginning, the grouping of various applications and analyzing the network flow traffic between that. So application groups, when you transition from on-prem to, let's say, a cloud or to another data center using HCX, there are flings which are available within VMware where you can convert that into something called as mobility groups. So application groups can be translated into mobility groups using HCX. As of today, we don't have a out-of-the-box dashboard for HCX on Network Insight, but then using some of the sample queries, like simple queries, like how you see here, where flow. This is just a simple query what you type on Network Insight, where we say flow, where flow type is equal to uh, extended L2 network, and source data center is not equal to destination data center. So we'll see, like, how the output of that query looks like. So this is been the enhancement, and this is how the HCX dashboard looks like. So as you see, this is the query which we had typed, the same query what we saw before, and that is where you actually specify this new flow type. So this new flow type is extended L2 network, right? So that we are going to identify such flows in that case. And then we also see the HCX linked to flows HCX manager. So what we do in Network Insight is Network Insight collects the flow information and the metrics from various devices by adding them as data sources. So in case of HCX, we add HCX connector as the data sources, and then it starts pulling this information. So this is the just a UI view of how the HCX visibility looks like. So that was primarily on the new features which were introduced, and getting into some of the usability or UI enhancements which has been made in 6.0. One of the things, those of you all who have worked on Network Insight would know that search is the most powerful feature of Network Insight. How is because there are no complex commands or anything which you need to know when you have to search for some metrics or some objects or some conditional outputs on Network Insight. It's as good as a plain text Google search what you do, right? But still, the challenge there used to be that some of these complex queries, like which we try to identify. Let's say if I were to identify which are those set of virtual machines where firewall rule is not enabled, and at the same time I want to create a sum of the total RTT metric value for all those VMs, right? What is the level of traffic which it is communicating, let's say, to the internet, right? So this would eventually turn out to be a lengthier query. So this was one of the challenges which customers still had. But with 6.0, what they have done is they have introduced a list of 250 plus inbuilt search queries, right now, which is mainly derived out of customer requirements. So it is either categorized into application groups or events or firewalls, routing, SD-WAN, VMware Cloud on AWS, and more of them. So this either they are like out of the box. So these are queries which you just click, it will auto populate on the search window, and it will automatically pull out the data what you're looking for. Or you would just need to replace those sample parameters by your own object names, like VM names or host names or group names or whatever you want to search for, right? So search has been made really, really easy and effective. And coming to the metric charts in Network Insight, till 5.3, which was the previous version, you would have seen metrics like this, right? So let's say this is the RTT metrics if we are trying to validate, or let's say this is the network packet drop metric. It needed some effort to clearly differentiate, let's say in this chart, what is the difference between this dark green area and the light green area, right? Now, what is that value which differs between these two? and there was no option to have like multiple metrics on the same chart, right? So that itself meant that I cannot do something like a correlation of these metrics. So I cannot correlate metrics. And when would you correlate metrics is when you really want to troubleshoot, deep dive into a certain issue, right? It could be around performance or packet drops, or it could be around some security verification or something, right? Now, this is what is going to be a big change in 6.0, where instead of those, it's completely transitioned into something called as a line chart. So as you can see, it is much more detailed, right? The more detail about the metrics. It's easier to read and interpret. It's interactive. So when I say interactive, I can actually, we'll see that in the demo. I can actually go more granular by just drag and drop a certain graph or a certain peak, and then go into that particular, more granular into that particular time interval, and then see like what exactly was going on during that time. I can have a grid view, right? So I can have multiple metrics in the same chart. At the same time, I can put up all these like a grid view. So for example, I'm looking at the flow RTT metrics, and at the same time, I'm also looking at the network packet drops at the same time. And I can just start correlating with the time interval, right? Okay, between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m., this is what was going on. Both these metrics seem to be varying quite a lot, right? So this is one of the big enhancements which helps in better troubleshooting and better analyzing or interpreting of the metrics in uh, 6.0. And coming to the application groups, right? So application groups is a very, again, a very key feature of Network Insight, where you can actually create a group of your own application sets or VMs, or it could be a set of VMs or a few VMs, and then have a complete path topology and network traffic analysis, which you can do between those objects, which helps you clearly define, okay, how should your microsegmentation approach be within that application group or across that application group. So that was that's one of the key capabilities of application groups. Now in 6.0, what they introduced is you can actually merge two small applications into one large application, and that is and then and you can save that. So that became that's called as a merge and save capability. Sorry. And then you can even customize the existing application groups and merge them into one. You can actually select multiple application groups and do a bulk delete. So a lot of these operations which are actually possible, by working in environments where you have like multiple application groups which gets created and deleted over a period of time, right? So and then coming to the pin boards, right? So now just to give you a quick background about pin boards, what happens in Network Insight is that when you search for a certain query, so I gave you an example of a complex query. When I say complex, it would ideally mean a lengthy query, right? So and then you don't want to keep typing that again and again, because that's a view that you always want on Network Insight. You can actually pin that into a pin board, right? And then you can actually revisit if you want to see the same view. You can go and click on that pin board which you have created and then access that. So one of the key features which got introduced in 6.0 is the ability to share the pin boards, right? Now, sharing the pin boards is means that you can actually create a URL out of the pin board, and then you can actually give access to users based on how you want to view them. It's just to view the pin board, or you want to give the permission to view and edit based on your internal LDAP, AD, or VIDM groups. And yeah, so this is how you would create the link to the pin board. And the other capability in terms of pin board, which was introduced, was the preserve the state of a pin board, right? And what happens with pin boards is you will create a pin board, right? And then over a period of time, you will be accessing that pin board, and then you will be making some changes on that pin board. But then let's say at some point of time, you want to revert back to that original pin board which was created. There wasn't an option earlier. So in this, you have an option which is called as go to the original page in the options, whereby you can revert back to the original pin board which was created, right? So some of the key usability features on the Network Insight 6.0 front, right? Okay, coming to backup and restore, we never had this capability in Network Insight at all. What we used to suggest or recommend to customers was to use their traditional backup or restore tools, third-party tools. some customers used to rely on snapshots, but then snapshot is never a backup, as we all are aware. It's never recommended to have snapshots as a backup. Snapshots are only used at the max when you do an upgrade from a previous version. That's the only place. And then once the upgrade is successful, we pretty much would delete that. Now with 6.0, they have introduced an inbuilt backup and restore option. Now the only thing is it's not going to be a UI based feature. It's either through CLI or through API, right? So these are the only two ways in which you can do a backup and restore. And what do we backup in this case is the configuration. It's not the data which we and I would have collected, but then it's the configuration which we have at this point. So like you see, admin settings, configuration data, data source information, and events, right? So user defined, or it could be a system event, or it could be the platform health. And with these the CLI commands, you can actually monitor the status of your backup or restore. Like at what percentage is it? Is it in progress, or is it failed, or is it going through fine, right? And then we have the option to schedule it either immediately or daily or weekly. These are the only three schedules that are available. And the storage, the target storage which is supported is SSH, FTP, or the local file system, right? So this is just an introductory or version 1.0 feature on Network Insight, which we have as of today. With that, I would like to give some input idea around the vRealize operations integration. Right, vRealize operations, like most of you all could have worked on, is our key infrastructure visibility tool. Right, vRealize operations gives you visibility into infrastructure and the applications, and has inbuilt intelligent analytics, which helps us to do get view into performance and capacity planning. These are some of the use cases what we do more from an infrastructure perspective. Now, we realize operations integration with Network Insight was a big ask from our customers for a long time, and it was in 5.2. The two versions before is when this integration came in. What did we provide with this integration was, or what we used to have, or what we had till 5.3 with this integration with Network Insight was, number one, the Network Insight events getting redirected to vRealize operations. So you don't have to really look into both the windows for the alerts. You can actually go into vRealize operations and go into alerts and view the alerts which are generated from Network Insight. One. Second one was the in context launch into VRNI from VROps. And third one was the single sign-on, which was possible through our VIDM into both of them, right? So these were some of the key features. So, but what got introduced in uh, 6.0 is the application group awareness. So the application groups, what we create, like what we spoke about earlier in the earlier slides, what you create is now being recognized by vRealize operations as well, right? So this itself means that when you look at it from a licensing perspective, you would need vRealize operations enterprise, because this would be categorized in the application monitoring side. But then with Network Insight, even if you have an advanced edition, you can make use of this feature, right? But this is a great integration which has now been introduced between both of these tools. And finally, when it comes to VMware Cloud on AWS, though we may not have a lot of customers on this kind of model in this region as of yet, but then just to ensure that, like I said, the whole vision here is that we don't stick only to on-premise, because now cloud-based, subscription-based solutions are getting more and more popular. And since VMC on AWS is one of our key strategic partnerships and very early partnerships, some of the metrics which Network Insight introduced was to get into more deeper network performance, right, and set alerts in when things go sideways, like how you see the screenshot. What you see here is a very regularly used feature of Network Insight, which we call as the flow insights, right? So you have the TCP RTT, and then you have the thresholds which are listed here, and it actually shows the change of pattern from something which goes from normal to abnormal. So this is something which is now possible for workloads running on VMC on AWS also. And likewise, we have a very granular view of the flows which are available on Insight on VMC on AWS through Network Insight, the same line charts and metrics which you saw, the RTT metrics which you saw in the previous slides. Okay, now I think we are good with the time. So just to give a few guidelines on upgrade, right? So when you upgrade from previous versions of Network Insight into 6.0, a couple of things to be noticed here is the direct inline upgrade is possible only if you are on version 5.2 and 5.3. It's very well there on the upgrade compatibility chart. Otherwise, if you are on a version older than 5.2, you may have to first come to 5.2 or 5.3 before upgrading to 6, right? Upgrades don't have any rollback, so you need to have proper snapshots and backups in place. And if it's a clustered environment, so when we say clustered environment in Network Insight, it depends on like what is your form factor, whether like it's an extra large node or there are various form factors, right? So based on the size of your infrastructure. So if you have multiple platforms, so VRNI comprises of a platform appliance and a proxy or a collector appliance. So there are environments where you may need to cluster based on the size of the environment. You may need to cluster multiple or have a cluster of platform appliances, more than one. In such cases, the upgrade will be performed only on the platform node number one, not on all the nodes, right? And fourth important point is the license key. So the 5.x license keys will not work in 6.0. So if you plan an upgrade, ensure that the customer, as customers or as partners, you upgrade the license key well in advance on the My VMware portal to 6.0 and then apply it, because once the upgrade completes, it's going to ask you for a new license key, and then you need to apply the 6.0 specific license key. And some of the disk space requirements, as you can see, like on the platform and collector, on the /tmp and the /home partition, 6 GB and 2 GB, and disk space on the platform server alone, let's say root partition 12 GB. They say it's a very good practice, but I've not seen this to be a very hard and fast rule. But yeah, if we have free space somewhere close to these values, it's really good. And very importantly, when we upgrade, we lose the connection to the UI, because the upgrade is performed on the UI, even if it is an online or a offline upgrade. Uh, it's always good to go into the settings and change the UI timeout value to at least 2 hours. Right? So that is one of the best practices what we usually see. So with that, I come to the end of the topics which I wanted to cover. And these are some of the resources which you can access. Very importantly, I would like to point you to the hands-on labs which are available for Network Insight. If you have not tried it, you can go here and try them. Right? Product walkthrough is something which is available for almost all VMware products, most of the VMware products. So you can go into the vRealize.vmware.com and then Network Insight, and it's a very nice, short, educating workflow. It actually shows over there. It's good for your learning purposes. And this is the main web page. There is even a cloud SaaS-based trial which is available, where you can go to this website. I'll share across the slide with the team so that you can refer to these links. And just to get into the demo real quick, in interest of time. So, all right, okay. So this is so those of you who have worked with Network Insight, so this is the landing page as what we can see. This is a 6.0 setup. So what we will do is we will start with the network map capability. So network map is an inbuilt icon itself. So it's actually part of the network assurance and verification like we spoke earlier. So either I click here, or I can just go into the search and just type the keyword called as network map. So let's see what's a kind of data, what it actually generates. So like you saw on the slide, it actually gives a very comprehensive view of your entire network topology, right? So like I said, this is the overall network topology, where the groups have been done based on the different locations, right? Or based on various countries. And I can actually zoom into individual groups and then see and as you see, the entity which I'm actually hovered on is an L3 switch. So likewise, what are all devices? So for example, if I'm clicking on this green small icon, it's basically representing a physical load balancer. So likewise, as you see on the legend, we can go into any of those entities, click on that, and then get the specific metrics, right? So here, like I said, you have the events in the network topology. What are the different events which have been reported from this model, what we have created? And like I said, since it's a organization wide demo environment, I may not have the complete permission, but otherwise you would actually get a create group option also over here, where I can actually create my own group like this. So all these what you see are all groups. I can create my own group and I can give it a name. I can specify the members of that group, and I can define a color to that, right? You know how you see the green, red, and all those ones. So these are some of those key events which are related, like for example, the switch port is down, reachability failure, which means there are, and if I want to see that in detail, I can click on that and it will show me like which endpoint to which endpoint is where we are actually seeing reachability, which is like the network is not reachable. Duplicate IP address issues. I have 5 events, such events which are there. So likewise, all the events which gets listed. Now, if I go into the entities, entities are nothing but these endpoints which I see listed here. I can click here and then I can click on the entity details, or I can pretty much search for them from here. Let's say this is an entity which is actually known as PRME. Let's say, yeah. So this is the firewall entity, and then I can click on that, and it'll actually show me a detailed information of what that is. Like it's actually an F5 load balancer. Similarly, if I go into the paths, I can set a source and a destination, and it actually shows me the detailed path information for that. Right? So this is on the network topology or the path view which we spoke about. Now coming to intents. So as you see here, this is a out of the box option which is available. I select all intents, and it will show me how many of them are user defined, how many of them are system defined, how many of them have failed, and how many intents are there in total, right? So if you see, there is this intent which is called as test, right? And this is a reachability intent, which means an object has to always have reachability or communication to another one object, and it shows as pass. But then here there is a segmentation intent which shows as failed, right? And it shows as critical. So I'll just click on that event, and then it will show me what exactly are we referring to over here. So if you see here, it shows that no, which is that intent which was created, which is the source network segment, what is the network destination network segment, what is the traffic direction, and then why, and it shows that the network endpoints should be segmented. While it identified network inside identified that they were not segmented rightly. Right? So then we can actually go back to, let's say, a solution like NSX and then apply the necessary segmentation rules. Now, similarly, this is a duplicate. It could be related to health, right? So, and similarly, if we have, let's say, something around the MTU mismatch, right, or management password protection. So these are some of those events. And then if I have to define my own, I click on the define intent, and then I can select these 3 categories. If you remember on the slides we saw, there are 3 main categories. So network health would typically mean around segmentation, reachability, duplicate IP address, duplicate MAC address, duplex mismatch, and device health will have MTU mismatch. And then compliance is the STIG compliance, which we support, along with the other compliances like password compliance and so on, right? And then we select that, and then we can provide the input parameters. So let's say if we select something and then we provide the input parameters over there, like what is the level of severity, what are the tags which we have provided a unique name, and then include and exclude. So include, you can actually select which are those objects which you want to be part of this intent definition. Going forward in the future, in the roadmap, we are going to have some more exciting features like what if or dynamic diff scenarios with the intent. So yeah, so that's pretty much about it. Now, quickly getting on to the next capability, which is our next new feature, which was mainly around the SD-WAN capability. So as you see, Velo Cloud Enterprise is an out-of-the-box dashboard, which is already available. Just being mindful of the time, what we have, I'm trying to. So if you see, this is the complete SD-WAN infrastructure, which VRNA has identified. It actually shows the edges, the hubs, the gateways, the links, the edge-to-edge flows, the internet flows. So it's just taking some time to load here. And once it loads, actually we can select the edges. It will list down all the edge locations, right? The edges which are part of the SD-WAN infrastructure, right? and we can actually click on a specific edge and get into its specific metrics. Like we saw the RTT metrics, the flow metrics, metric correlation. So multiple things, which you can actually do from here. Sorry about that. The UI is a bit slow over here. So this helps. So this is exactly, like the edge dashboard on SD-WAN was one of the new capabilities, which was introduced. Now, while it loads, we just what we would do is I'll just quickly take you through the search enhancements, right? So which we actually saw. So we'll just come back to the SD-WAN part again. Oh yeah, okay. So so here, if I can select a specific edge, and it'll actually give me the details. So before it loads, so we'll just finish this part and then we can come back. So like I mentioned, in the search, what has been introduced is you just type a very basic command, or a search query called help, and these are those out of the box search queries for you, which has been inbuilt into Network Insight. And it actually not just gives the search query, but also the description of that, so you know what you're actually looking for. You just click on that, it will auto populate the same on the search bar, and we might just need to replace these sample parameters by the original parameters, which you are actually looking for, like original objects or application groups, what you're actually looking for. Right? And then we also spoke about the pin boards, right? So like I said, so let's say if I have to do a search where, if I want to do a search where I want to identify the flows where the firewall rule is, let's say, not set, right? And I just do a search query like that, and I know that I'm going to revisit this page multiple times, or because I would need to view this multiple times. What I would do is I'll just convert that into, I'll say, pin widget. I'll say create a new pin board, and then I'll give it a name, right? And then I'll just create a pin. So this is a pin, which I can actually visit. So you get a share now option right away, or actually you can come into the pin boards, the one which I just created, FW not set. I'll go into it, like I'll revisit it whenever I need. And then, like, you see this option here which says share. I click on share, and then it actually helps generate a URL. So this is the URL, and I can specify which users and what level of permission do I need to give, whether it is view or view and edit, right? So this is one of the cool features. And like I said, like if we make any changes to that, if you see, it gives an option that says switch to the original pin, right? So this is where you can actually revert back to the or go to the original page, right? So where if you have made some changes to the existing pin. So that was on the search and the pinboard features. Now going back to the SD-WAN dashboard, like what we see here. Uh, so this is the detailed view. So this is the topology right now where we see the source edges, the destination edges, and the tunnels. So as you, if I just hover on a tunnel between these, it actually shows me the QoE values. So the ones you see, the video, audio, and transactional, as you can see, the reason why they are in red is because they are less than 7, which is the default threshold, the standard threshold value. And this way you can actually troubleshoot these metrics. This gives a detailed view of, let's say, if the source is that particular edge, right? How much of flows are direct, how much of it is via a gateway, and how much of it is actually going into the internet. I can also specify a destination edge for that, and then I can also even filter it by the application. So let's say I want to filter it by HTTP. Right? So I'm specifying a source edge, a destination edge, and the type of the application, and it actually gives me the split of how many flows, like which actually goes via hub, via edge, and so on. Right. So this is the detailed view, and just to give you the insights into the metrics, the RTT metrics which we spoke about. So this is one of the new capabilities, right? The time slide bar. So I can actually slide this and then specify a certain time interval to get the metrics related to that. So right now we have actually selected the total flow metric. Now I can actually add a metric graph. and then select a different one, which can be around packet drop, right? For example, it actually gives me the packet drop metric as well. Like I said, I can convert that into a grid view and then have like, two different metrics uh, parallelly, which helps in better troubleshooting, effective troubleshooting by correlating with each other. So this is another one capability. And I can actually reset it and then go back to the original view. Yeah, I go back to the original view, and what I can do is like, if this is the metric graph, I can actually select a specific time into, like, if I want to be more granular, right? So I can actually select this it here on the, yeah, I can just select a specific range myself and then go more granular into what was exactly happening with the metrics at that point of time. So let's say, for example, I've just selected the flow packet count metrics, right? And then I wanted to be more granular. I just selected a time frame, and then it actually gives me very detailed information around that, right? So one last thing, which I wanted to show you was on the HCX metrics which we have. So I already had this search query. So like I mentioned on the slides, I can select a new flow type this time, which is the extended L2 network, and group by L2 network. Uh, Flow where flow type is equal to, and then I can say that
We lost your voice, Rahul.
Is it okay?
Now it's better. We just lost the last 20 seconds.
Okay. Sorry about that. Right. So thanks for pointing that out. Okay, so this is a search query, which actually takes us to the HCX specific metrics, as I said. So we can go and filter down and check, like, which are those HCX managers, and then based on that we can have the same metric chart view, like, how we saw before. Right? So that will be based on a search query. So we are exactly at 9 p.m. So in interest of time, I would take a pause here. And if there are any questions, which we can take, because I just wanted to ensure that we cover all the key features, right? There is so much more we can go on in detail, and at least show you some of those key features and enhancements, which has really brought a network insight feature parity to some of those very large enterprise class traditional tools, right? So that's how the integration with VeriFlow, bringing in features like network assurance, maps, intents, and SD-WAN enhancements, and all these things have brought in. There are some enhancements which has been brought in also with respect to the hardware support, because Network Insight releases every 6 months. That's the usual release cycle. And every time we see a lot of more networking hardware, right? So it could be from various vendors, the support getting added. And this purely is from the request which comes from the field, from the customers, right? So if you have any use cases, if you have right now any more deep dive sessions which you need for your organization, if you are a TAM customer, especially, reach out to your TAM. We are more than happy to come and do those sessions for you. And also, if you want to plan an upgrade of Network Insight, we are here to help you out with that as well, right? So with that, I will open it up for questions. Sadik, if we got a few minutes for that, um, happy to take any feedbacks on how useful was the session for you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rahul. It's really appreciated. I think it was very useful for those who are with us on the session today. Let's see what we can do. If there is any more questions, I don't see any questions in the chat, so
okay.
I don't expect that there is any questions. I mean, it was really a fruitful session. Let's hope we can build on top of it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I think Muhammad